What a great finish to the GRENKE Chess Classic. It's Magnus Carlsen playing against Richard Rapport in the final. Magnus with white in the game I'm about to show you, and I just finished watching the second game they played as well. That was a nail biter. Lawrence Trent doing my head in. Hands up if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. But Anish Giri on fire in the commentary. Let's jump into the game here. E4 from Magnus, and Richie goes for a French defense. Love to see it. It's gonna be a sharp battle. Magnus goes for knight c3, the winner variation. Bishop b4, pin and win right. E5 therefore, there's pressure on the pawn of course. C5 strikes at the center. A3, bishop takes. We're rattling through the opening because it's so complex. And after knight e7, queen g4 starts the shenanigans. This pawn under fire. Is it defended? No. Richie goes queen c7, a move deeper than the Mariana Trench. This is complex because Magnus now goes bishop d3, but what if he follows the main line, takes the pawn? Let me give you a quick flavour. This is how the lines go. The queen from c7 on the pawn, the knight can cover. This is one sample, something like this, and we reach a position here. Now, why do I mention? Because after queen c7, no takes here, Magnus goes bishop d3 as mentioned, and now Richie goes queen a5. You know, queen c7, queen a5. What the heck is all that about? Well, the pawn on c3 is under fire. Now if you take, you're too slow as white. Black takes on c3 with check, picks up the loose rook after rook g8 by the way, and black's doing well. And if you go knight e2, now c4 comes, bishop is trapped. It's got no retreat. So, therefore, bishop d2. This is the move you've induced when really that bishop maybe wanted to come round here in certain lines. c4 now. Closes the queen side. Could be risky even though you kick the bishop back. But long term, black maybe wants to play against this pawn or the c2 pawn even. But that's why we now see rook g8 followed by a4, not allowing the black queen to sit on that square, attack c2, and one day possibly the bishop bounces round, right? Deep stuff. Anish Giri was walking us through it in commentary. Knight b to c6 played, and now queen h3. Magnus in his prep. This is deep stuff. The pawn under fire. So h6, and now bishop h5. Such a weird looking move, but we'll see the point in a moment, because after bishop d7, knight e2, you want to castle queenside as black, but then this pawn is legit dropping off the board and it's not ideal. How do you play against it? Well, that's why g6 is played. Kicks back the bishop, then we get h5. Yes, you're gaining time against the white bishop, but you're also creating a number of dark squared weaknesses. Stockfish wants to castle queenside immediately, but knight f5 played looks so natural, and now the wacky moves just continue. This is computer prep. Modern chess, this is what people do these days. They play crazy looking moves like g4, but after pawn captures, bishop captures, castles queenside, taking that knight, why is Magnus giving up his bishops? We see some of the points starting to be revealed. Because if you take with the g pawn, the computer's favourite move, because now the rook is open on g5, stops bishop g5. Well then, white moves the queen, h pawn is running. Now it's probably black's best play, because you do get some counterplay, but you have to deal with the passed h pawn. However, Richie takes with the e pawn here, doesn't give Magnus a passed pawn here on the h file, but bishop g5 starts an absolute positional domination. The rook moves. Now king d2 just to add some cover to this pawn and sit tight in that cozy home there. Rook h8 hits the queen. It slides to f3, and now knight d8 headed for e6, and Magnus could have even gone knight f4. Knight e6 could be played. Then you simply take, you know, something like this, just shut everything down on the dark squares, it's domination. Then you bring the rooks here. different way to play, right? But what was played instead was this, and now knight f4 could be played as mentioned, but Magnus goes h4, knight e6, and h5. Why is he rushing the position when he could sit and squeeze, which he's made a career on, right? Well, he's seen that after pawn g5, which Richie plays, this structure must surely be collapsing, but he's miscalculated. Now, you can't take here or knight d4, discovery, and the queen's not only having to retreat, it's got no squares. It's about to drop off the board. So don't touch that pawn. And equally, you can't bring the rook to the g-file to immediately attack, which we see Magnus do soon, because there's this amazing resource of pawn g4. The queen can move, but then f4. And it looks impossible, because surely knight takes, but this is the trick. Rook takes, it's so tactical, right? We're just going to stick with one of the main lines here, and then the follow-up is knight g5, opening the rook on the queen, and again, the queen is checkmated, has, excuse me, no squares to go to, it's going to drop off the board. So, the immediate rook to g1, no good. So, Magnus goes rook a e1. Now, what is the subtle difference? Well, this time, in all of those g4 lines, when you get right to the very end, the queen can take on e8, bishop recaptures, rook takes this time, supporting, and you get enough compensation for the queen. Very deep stuff. Then the f7 pawn drops, I should say, as well. H pawn running. We're not going to go down the line because Richie now makes a mistake. He should just sit steady, a waiting move like a6. But he pushes f4 and he's overlooked the power of Magnus's idea now, because now the rook comes to the g-file. Hang on, wasn't there a problem with this? Well, now when the pawn is defended with rook g8, not good. This time, Magnus finds the sacrifice. Can you guess the move he played? This is where he comes crashing through and starts to squeeze Richie. So the move he finds is knight takes on f4. Fantastic sacrifice. Now, if it's immediately taken here, which wasn't played, then there's queen takes, pawn takes. You crash through with check. And if king here, bang, you skewer the king to the queen, that's dropping off. If the bishop blocks, now you take, huge compensation, pawn dropping, h pawn running after bishop g5. This is similar to the lines I mentioned previously that we didn't click down. So coming back here, that's why we see takes on f6 first played. But after Magnus recaptures, now knight takes here, you're running into the same problems. Now, you can take here, according to Stockfish, but Magnus goes a different way. It's all very complicated. He instead pushes the h pawn immediately. Yes, the knight can come back to this wonderful square, covering g5, but after h7, rook h8, queen e3, you just can't maintain the blockade, because the queen slides back, hits f6, but Magnus finds a move to just bring the whole piggy's house down like a house of sticks. It's not made of bricks. He crashes through on g5 here. Knight recaptures, queen takes, covering this pawn, and it's paralysis for black. King c7 now played by Rapport. Magnus invades. We get bishop e6, covering the f-pawn, and now Magnus does go wrong here, but it's not obvious why. He should go rook h5 to bring it to e5, but he goes rook e1, bringing it to e5. What's the difference, right? Well, now that you didn't put the rook here, Black's got this amazing resource of bishop f5. Looks terrible because you give the rook an invasion square. But after the king moves, if white takes this pawn on f7, let's say, then the rook captures here. This is the point. You can't actually hold everything together. Black is actually winning this position. And coming all the way back here, if you don't invade, if you bring the rook back to defend the pawn, well, you've just lost a load of time, but also bishop g6 comes, cements everything, and the pawn will drop the moment these ones move. Not good. but it's missed by Richie. He goes king b6. Now rook e5 comes and Magnus back in control. Despite being a minor piece down, his 2 pawns are enough compensation, especially this one. So queen c8 now played. We get pawn f4, a6 on the board. King c1 from Magnus, doing some king safety stuff. King a7 and now f5, initiating the steamrolling. Because if bishop captures, again, pause if you want to test your tactics right, completely losing move. This queen overloaded, you take on f5. Queen recaptures and this one drops in the corner. No longer defended, that is game over. Excuse me. So coming back here, bishop d7 played therefore, a5 on the board, coming away from the attack, cutting in the black king here. We get queen f8, offering an exchange, but not good, right? Because Magnus can now invade with his rook if he wants. There is this threat, by the way, which is why king b2. And after queen c8, Richie paralysed, he couldn't take, connects the pawns. Magnus now takes on d5. The whole position's collapsing. I mean, what if you tried to go bishop c6? Well, then there's rook e7. You know, you just can't hold everything. So coming back here, this was played. Now bishop c6, the rook comes back to e5, bishop d7, queen takes pawn, the whole house is collapsing. Bishop takes on f5, rook c5 hits the queen. Queen e6, now the queen's come off the board. Magnus doesn't even need the ladies anymore. He's calculated it through. They're down low on time, but here comes the rook. Rook g7, yes you can win the pawn, but watch the tricks. If rook captures, now we take, bishop takes, pawns going through. Apologies if you can hear screaming, kids kicking off, it's dinner time. Now we see the bishop takes though, instead of the rook, and new tactical problems after f7. This bishop's dropping, of course. You know, if you come with the king, there's this tactic, rook's overloaded, queen goes through. So Richie moves the bishop away. For some reason he sticks it on d3. No idea why. Mouse slip right. Just joking, they're over the board. But say he sticks it here, then there's rook g8, and again the pawn's going through or the rook's dropping off the board. So this was the final move. After Magnus took that bishop simply, Rapport resigned. What a game. Then we went to game 2, it just finished. Magnus was under pressure the entire game, completely lost, somehow defended miraculously, and Rapport couldn't convert. It finished a draw, therefore Magnus Carlsen wins GRENKE chess. I hope you enjoyed this video, smash subscribe if you did, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.